Good day, friends. It brings me much joy to present to you today the watercolor travel journal of Sally Wickham Mollomo. Sally took this trip to China in October of 1998, and you'll see with travel journals, watercolor, or any kind of art travel journal that it's a creative expression, not only from the type of paper you select for your journal, but also how you may do collages like how Sally's done here. It looks like with a ginkgo leaf motif here, glued on with a archival glue, as well as any other layers. So even from the outset, the cover, and of course a stamp there of China. We have a work of art in the cover itself. So let's go over some highlights here. It's an accordion fold style journal books. Here she has the from notes from the flight from Chicago, day one. This is a really cool page with a pop-up book kind of motif of the Great Wall of China. You can see that, isn't that neat? With a plant found along the Great Wall, and she's got here in the title, Lost on the Great Wall, with notes about bizarre hawkers selling different t-shirts and bottles of water, canes and hats. So personal notes about the trip along the way, but really neat that you can just even experiment with the physical nature of your book with three-dimensionality. Very nice. Here's a temple, a beautiful watercolor of a temple. Maps, can include maps in your journal. This is a beautiful watercolor scene here along a river. Look at that. Very nice. The nice negative space of the white showing through. You watercolor artists know how important it is to use your white of the paper. And this is an interesting account here. Sally goes into the silk factory in Hangzhou. David Buck, Professor David Buck gave the lecture on this one. The Chinese discovered the silkworm from the mulberry bush. By the 6th century, exported out of China, previously kept secret. By the 18th and 19th century, everyday uses for silk stockings everywhere. Weaving done by individual households. But I really like this page. Sally's got the stamps from China, as well as a man on the street here. Cultivating one's spirit through meditation, exercise, the life force through all living things. The qi is the breath. The Tao is the way. And some receipts from hotels, airport rides, etc. Closes out this first half, but the cool thing about this accordion book, folks, is that the opposite side you can also work out. And here she's got a beautiful mountain scene with a village below in the valley. She's in the mountains of Huangshan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Pine trees on Mount Huangshan cling to the rocks instead of taking root in soil. Many ancient pines are 100 plus years old, rising high into the sky or hanging upside down. Most of these are named. The trees are named. Greeting guest pine, dragon claw pine, lotus flower peak. And practicing a little, is that Mandarin language? Some of you might know in the audience here. All goods are carried by porters to the mountaintop, 2 trips daily, mostly nomadic people from northern China. That was on October 8th of 1998. Where were you on October 8th, 1998? And she's got the yin-yang symbol here. And Sally's got more notes on Taoism here, expressed in the Tao Te Ching. We were just mentioning that. The Taoist idea is to regulate one's way of life according to the Tao, or the way, which is an abstract or mystical concept. It embodies the principles by which all things, animate and inanimate, in the universe operate. Any strenuous or forced action is likely to counter the way. Therefore, the Tao embraces inaction, or wei, or wu wei. This does not mean doing nothing, rather acting harmoniously and naturally. Never act unnecessarily. The way never acts, yet nothing is left undone. Likewise, the sage knows without moving, identifies without seeing, and accompanies without taking unnecessary action. In other words, press rather than shove. In China, philosophies such as Taoism have played a role similar to our Western religions. Prophets emerging during periods of instability perhaps gives impetus to our need for inner strength during times of misfortune. Interesting. Confucius, 550 BC, thought intellectual accomplishment was no good without emotional balance. Feng Shui. Geomancy is a form of divination that looks for signs in the topography of the earth. In China, since ancient times, it's been known as Feng Shui, or wind and water. Feng Shui assesses the qi, or primal energy that flows through all creation. Therefore, it's important how where a building is placed, i.e. a bank in Hong Kong by the architect I.M. Pei. The site's qi and landscaping, planting, sleeping, table settings, etc. The layout of imperial buildings and temples is based on principles of cosmology, ideas based on structure and workings of the universe, and Feng Shui. At the north and enclosed to prevent harm, evil spirits, the temple entrance always faces south, so the god ruler can overlook his realm. North side tucked into the mountains, south open to open view. A very kind of ornate watercolor there of the Taoist temple with the yin and yang sign you can see there, illustrating what Sally's mentioning about the Feng Shui and the temple entrance facing south, so the ruler can and the divine can look over the kingdom. Winds are smooth, rains come as they should. Prayer for peace. A lovely watercolor scene here, very loose and abstract. I really like this one, with a nice wash effects, layered wash effects in the background there. And this is a monastery. Looks like she befriended someone who did a little interpretation of some symbols here and made some notes. Farming rice. The most important crop throughout China is rice. Except in winter, rice fields are flooded with 6 inches of water. Looks like as Sally was getting into her trip, she started picking up on some of the sounds, phonemes of the language, and visiting a tea plantation. When you form a collage, to layer it as you would a painting, say with a wash layer and then build up with subsequent layers, it really gives a nice dimensionality and different colors, and plus textures even in the paper. Very nice effect there, despite the subject matter. And she's in Shanghai. 13 million people. This is back in 1998. Now this is a really cool kind of folio scene here. It's got a 2-pager, and actually she's cut away the paper here, and then looks like she's pasted that on this paper. Really gives a nice again, that dimensional effect. The east meets the west in Hong Kong Harbor, and other labels from the foods and beverages that she's been enjoying along the trip. So that concludes our tour of Sally Wickham Mollomo's China Journal from October of 1998. I hope you've enjoyed this journal. I'm posting links below to some of Sally's other works